yesterday, you know, trying to convert over two man, and my hand make mistake and bungs down them drinks. And the other one said to me, why if you right enough and you cut it off, boss? And same time the two of them just hold me down and cut the hand.
Have a laugh and settle into Lime Tree Lane. Join us Mondays to Fridays at 7 a.m.
And when they done their feet try you. You understand me? No wonder the boy was having a high. No, come back here. Where do you think you're going?
Let me go check in bed.
Only on PBCJ, the People's Station.
Twists, turns, ins and outs. From the four corners of the earth, PBCJ presents Globe-Trotting Yardie with Carol Francis.
There are numerous ways of traveling across the city of Delhi.
Tantalizing, breathtaking and revealing, bringing you the wonders of travel from across the world. That's Globe-Trotting Yardie right here on PBCJ, the People's Station.
So let's get to it. This morning we have special guests with us, the Honorable Minister of Education and Youth, the Honorable Favour Williams. We have her Minister of State, Member of Parliament, Marsha Smith. We also have Dr. Nadine Williams, Director of Health Services and Planning at the Ministry of Health and Wellness. This morning we will have presentations looking at the current dengue challenges. We'll also have a presentation from the Minister of Education to give an update on some developments in her ministry. Before that, however, we would like to announce some board appointments which have been approved by Cabinet. Cabinet gave the approval for the appointment of the following persons to the advisory board of the NIF, that is the National Insurance Fund. These are Professor Andrew Spencer as chairman, and membership includes Mr. Richard Fraser, Mr. Kedon Clark, Ms. Donna Marie Howe, Mr. Desron Graham, Ms. Nesta Claire Smith Hunter, Mr. Gladstone Luars, Ms. Sanya Goff, Mr. Delano Seavright, Senator Cavangale, Ms. Lysant Mitchell, Mr. Andre Hutchinson, Ms. Corinne Bellamy, as well as Ms. Diane Black and Ms. Catherine Phipps. We also had the approval of persons to the advisory board of the Jamaica Productivity Center for the period of 2 years, chaired by Mr. Omar Zan and Deputy Chair Mrs. Andreen Collins. We also had the appointment of the following persons to the Veterinary Committee for a period of 3 years, effective September 4, 2023 to September 3, 2026. That's Dr. Osbill Watson, who is chairman, and deputy chairman would be Dr. Trudy Stewart Gaynor. The membership includes Dr. Lynette Peters, Dr. Donald Keith Amiel, CD, Dr. Mishka Stennett, Dr. Gavin Bellamy, Dr. Velton Gooden, Ms. Marsha Locke, and Mr. Louis Jean Hacker. We also had appointments to the Bauxite Mining Limited for a period of 2 years, from the 11th of September 2023 to the 10th of September 2025, chaired by Mr. Cleveland Allen, Deputy Chair or Vice Chair, Mr. Robert Chung, including membership Mr. George Sutar, Mr. Philip Schwab, Mrs. Michelle Campbell-Sawyer, Ms. Chantel Jarrett, Mr. Cathan Spence, Ms. Anna Harry, Mr. Stephen Reynolds, and Mr. Kenneth Brown. There was also the approval for the establishment of a sustainable pool of financing to facilitate the creation and implementation of the Jamaica Screen Development Initiative. This initiative will assist in stimulating local micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises within the creative economy to assist them in becoming more productive in the global export for content and talent. There was also funding from the Ministry of Finance of $150 million for the provision of trucked water to areas that are experiencing severe drought. It was divided to the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development to the tune of $60 million, the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries to the tune of $10 million, and the National Water Commission to the tune of $80 million. There was also the approval, well, this has taken place already, but Cabinet gave the approval for the hosting of the annual meeting of the Council of Legal Education from the 7th to the 9th of September 2023 at the AC Hotel. There were also some approvals for travel ratified by the Cabinet. The Prime Minister will be off the island between the 24th and the 26th of October, and he will be off with the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. There was also approval for the Minister of Tourism, who is already off the island from the 7th of September to the 9th. This is post. The announcement is post the travel. There is also planned travel by the Minister of Finance and Public Service to the United States for an investor roadshow that is from the 5th to the 6th of October, as well as the annual meeting of the International Monetary Fund from the 10th to the 16th of October this year. The Minister of Education, I suspect, was also given approval. Well, the Minister of State for Education attended the 10th Commonwealth Youth Ministers meeting, which happened from the 11th to the 15th of September, where they had discussions about important matters related to youth within the Commonwealth. And those are the traveling that I can announce at this time. We also have the award of contracts to supply and delivery of 2,400 Jamaica Jackal 70-liter olive green rucksacks to the Jamaica Defense Force, and to be used also by the Jamaica National Service Corps to the tune of £325,000. We also had the approval for the award of a contract to by Heart Trust NTA for group health insurance for the period of 3 years, October 1, 2023 to the 30th of September 2026. And this was to Guardian Life Limited to the tune of $504 million, inclusive of GCT. We also had the award of contract to the tune of $90,588,000, including GCT, by the National Housing Trust to Ernst & Young for the provision of external auditing services for that entity, and a contract for $2,194,812 for the provision of dietary services to the KPH and the Victoria Jubilee hospitals to Caroline Smith and Company, who are concessionaires, I think. We also had the approval by the National Works Agency for the widening of Grange Lane to 4 lanes from Municipal Boulevard to Augusta Drive, and the installation of potable water under the Capital Expenditure Program to General Paving Limited to the tune of $925 million. And also, Cabinet gave approval for the award of a contract to the Port Authority of Jamaica for the construction of the North Berth seawall at the Falmouth Cruise Shipping Pier, or Cruise Shipping Terminal in Trelawney, to the tune of $85 million to Rogers Land Development Limited. And this was subjected to consultations with the local authority, which is the Trelawney Municipal Corporation. Those are some of the decisions, board appointments, and travel arrangements as approved by Cabinet in its most recent meetings. We will start off, first of all, the Minister of Education and Youth, who has an update on the education sector, Honorable Favour Williams. Oh, I also forgot to welcome Dr. Kassan Troop, who is the acting CEO of the Ministry of Education. Minister Williams.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Let me acknowledge colleague Minister Smith, Minister Nestor Morgan, Minister of Information and Youth, members from the various ministries. Let me especially acknowledge Dr. Troop, our acting Chief Education Officer, and other members of the team from the Ministry of Education and Youth. Let me acknowledge as well specially invited guests from our tertiary sector, Dr. Brown, who is here with us, and I know that he's the newly installed president of UTEC, and I know that Professor Denzel Williams, the newly installed principal of UWI Mona, is on his way as well. Dr. Williams from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Oh, I know. Oh yeah, Dr. Webster Carr, who is never without her mask. Let me acknowledge her. Members of the media, Jamaicans all, good morning again. It is indeed a pleasure to be here once again at post-cabinet press briefing to continue to bring the good news about education and education transformation. And so this morning, I want to announce that we welcome additional new teachers into the education sector. When I last provided an update on September 13th at the last post-cabinet press briefing, I reported and welcomed 1,155 new teachers. Today, we can say welcome to an additional 109 new teachers, putting the total to 1,264 new teachers that have entered classrooms for the year 2023 to 2024. We're making every effort, of course, to ensure that teachers hired in the month of September and have submitted all of their information are paid during the month of September. So I want to say welcome again to new and in-service teachers. Thank you for your continued commitment to nation building. The next slide, please. On the issue of infrastructure and technology, as you know, the Jamaica Education Transformation Commission, or the Orlando-led report, calls on us to significantly increase government's expenditure on school maintenance and capital projects and ensure access to quality broadband for education for all schools. This week, I am delighted to report that Cabinet approved US $30 million to support key areas for which continued improvements are needed to achieve full transformation and modernization of the education sector. And these areas include strengthening of school governance, infrastructure component for STEM and the visual and performing arts at the secondary level of the education system, information and communication technology support, improvements in early childhood and the tertiary sector. And indeed, this morning I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Kevin Brown, again, newly elected president of UTEC. Dr. Brown was appointed in July of this year. Much has already been written about him. In his most recent role, he served as technology project lead for civil aerospace technology and future programs at Rolls-Royce, a leading global aerospace company and a provider of jet engines for commercial and defense aircraft. Born and raised in Jamaica, Dr. Brown is an alum of UTEC, where he completed a diploma in mechanical engineering, majoring in production in 2000, and was president of the Students' Union. This morning, the connection that I really want to make is to his primary and high school in order to inspire our students to greatness. Dr. Brown hails from Grange Hill Primary in Westmoreland. And Dr. Brown, I don't know if you know, but recently, within the recent past, Grange Hill Primary got new blocks, 8 classrooms, principal's office, guidance counselor's office, sick bay, staff room, students and staff restrooms. Dr. Brown also attributes his success to his days at Herbert Morrison Technical High School in St. James. And I'm sure already you're seeing the connection between Herbert Morrison Technical High School and UTEC. Smooth transition between those universities. Also, I don't know if it's well known, but I'm saying it today that they were also winners of the coding competition at World Skills this year. I know we're supposed to also welcome Dr. Denzel Williams. I know he is on his way. In the meantime, just let me say he's now the new principal of UWI Mona, well known among Jamaicans, titan of industry, Mona School of Business, and his most recent assignment at the Five Island campus in Antigua and Barbuda. He hails from Coaks View Primary School, and I know that that school is immensely proud that one of their own is leading the Mona campus of our leading regional university. Additionally, just recently, that school, a student there, received a trophy for placing 3rd in the World Skills Jamaica Visual Arts Competition in June of this year. Professor Williams also owes much of what he is or has become to his days and teaching at Manning's High School. And you can see on the screen a picture of the Victor Lowe STEM building, which I had the chance of opening recently along with Mr. Victor Lowe. And I know as well that Manning's High School is immensely proud. They also won an award at the Science Research Council Competition 2023. The Orlando Patterson-led report calls on the tertiary sector for the development of streamlined governance framework, increase public-private sector partnerships, development of a framework for micro-credentialing aligned with the National Qualifications Framework, and a more transparent funding model to support the operations of the sector. At the Ministry of Education and Youth, we've completed a draft higher education policy that I have sent to both of these leaders and asked them to pay specific attention to the section called funding model. We must significantly increase the percentage of the population with a tertiary degree. I turn now to civics in schools. Recently, there was a declaration by the leader of the opposition at their recent conference that he will reinstate civics in schools when they become government. I am happy to report that this government has already reinstated civics in schools. On December 13, 2022, this government launched the civics curriculum for various grades. If we could get the next slide, please. And in fact, you will see the evidence of that. Myself in the middle, Dr. Troop, and the then president-elect, who is now the president of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Mr. Leighton Johnson, looking at the civics curriculum for various grades, and that this has been introduced. As you know, Vision 2030 outlines a national development plan for a secure and prosperous future for Jamaica. The realization of this vision is dependent on a particular kind of Jamaican, a Jamaican who is confident and productive, a Jamaican who is a successful lifelong learner, a Jamaican who is deeply rooted in the Jamaican culture, a Jamaican who understands his or her rights and responsibilities as a Jamaican citizen, a Jamaican who understands him or herself as an individual and as a member of a group endowed with God-given abilities. I'm happy to share that there are currently 3 levels of the Civics in School program. For grades 1 to 3, there's an awakening of awareness. For grades 4 to 6, awakening of social consciousness. And for grades 7 to 9, an awakening of social responsibility. I'm also delighted to report that as of September 2023, 584 schools are doing civics in schools, and as you can see, 479 at the primary level and 105 at the high school. So as we move more into this new school year, we are expecting additional schools to come on board, and by the time we end this new school year, we're expecting that all of our primary and secondary schools will have civics in schools. I turn now to parenting as the final on my list of items to report on. During the last post-cabinet press briefing, I informed the nation that during the last school year across the education sector, with the leadership of the Division of School Services and the National Parenting Support Commission, we trained over 41,000 parents in good parenting. And so we're coming into the school year with great expectation of better working relationships with parents and their children's school and between the parents and their children. For this new school year in which we are, the National Parenting Support Commission will lead the training in excess of 100,000 parents under the Citizen Security Program Indicator number 2. The National Parent Support Commission is collaborating with ministries, departments, and other agencies, as well as community organizations to achieve this target. Several strategies have been laid out already, and the work is beginning. There are going to be parent mentors. Our parent places will be very busy across the island. We will have roving parent places as well. Our guidance counselors in our schools will continue to be activated to help with the parenting support programs. And of course, the social workers from the National Parent Support Commission will all be on board. We will be continue to use technology as well, our Stay Connect program, to seek to increase and maintain parental involvement throughout the years for their student. Of course, we continue to have Literacy as a Family Experience pull-out program directed at parents whose children are reading below grade level, with dedicated resource centers linked to Parent Place. And of course, the National Parent Support Commission will continue to collaborate with other ministries, other organizations for the delivery of this program. Nothing on this magnitude has been tried before. We are committed. We are seeing the impact already from the 41,000 parents who have been trained. We are very excited about this program that is being led by the National Parent Support Commission. And that is the end of the report to the nation this morning on the good news from the education sector. But before I take my seat, let me acknowledge our Permanent Secretary Acting, Dr. Maureen Dwyer. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Minister Williams. Also, yes, welcome, Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education and Youth, Dr. Maureen Dwyer. We will now have a presentation from Dr. Nadine Williams, who is Director of Health Service Planning at the Ministry of Health and Wellness. I'd like to welcome you to the podium, Dr. Williams.
Honorable Robert Morgan, Minister without portfolio in the Office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for information. Honorable Fable Williams, Minister of Education and Youth. The Honorable Marcia Smith, Member of Parliament and appointed State Minister in the Ministry of Education and Youth. The Permanent Secretary, Dr. Maureen Dwyer. Dr. Cassandra, our Chief Education Officer, acting. Dr. Karen Webster, National Epidemiologist, the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Mrs. Huntley Jones, a National Entomologist. Senior officials from the ministries, agencies, and departments of government, and from the University of Technology and the University of the West Indies. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, good morning. The Ministry of Health and Wellness officially declared a dengue outbreak for Jamaica on Saturday, September 23rd, 2023. Having observed that Jamaica had surpassed the dengue epidemic threshold for July and August, and is on a trajectory to do the same for the month of September. This means the country is seeing an increase in the number of cases compared to what is normally seen during these months of the year. As of Friday, September 22, 2023, the country recorded 565 suspected, presumed, and confirmed cases of dengue. Of that number, 78 cases had been confirmed, with the majority of cases seen in Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Catherine, and St. Thomas. The dominant strain is dengue type 2, which last predominated in 2010. The majority of these cases are children between the ages of 5 and 14. There is no dengue-related death classified at this time. However, 6 deaths are being investigated. We wish to remind the public that dengue fever is a mosquito-borne disease. It's an illness that is usually mild, and a person may experience fever, headache and pain behind the eyes, joint and muscle pain, and some vomiting and diarrhea. Rest and adequate hydration is usually enough to see one through the illness. The recommended treatment for fever and muscle pain is paracetamol or acetaminophen. The public is urged to remember this, that aspirin, diclofenac, and ibuprofen, or any medication that is noted to be a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, is not recommended at this time, because these drugs, when used in dengue, have been known to be associated with an increase in the severity of disease. On occasion, the illness may progress to severe dengue, which can result in organ failure, bleeding or hemorrhage, or severe depletion of fluid internally, causing shock or death. Persons experiencing prolonged fever, severe intense vomiting or abdominal pain bleeding under the skin and other unusual forms of bleeding, getting confused or feeling very, very weak, are to seek immediate medical attention. These are the warning signs. Since 2019, the government of Jamaica, through the Ministry of Health and Wellness, has made significant investment in the vector control program, with over $300 million in acquisition of vehicles, fogging machines, and the expansion of number of staff dedicated to the vector management program. In anticipation of a possible outbreak, the Ministry of Health and Wellness implemented its enhanced vector control program in July of this year. The epidemiological observations has triggered several other actions in the ministry. So the employment of 500 temporary vector control workers has occurred to work along with the 213 permanent staff. Another 600 temporary workers will now be engaged in search and destroy efforts and health education activities. We have extended the opening hours for all our Type 3 to 5 health centers to 8 p.m. starting Monday, October the 2nd, 2023. This will allow for persons to access the facilities to receive treatment and referrals where necessary. Also, as of Monday, October the 2nd, children under the ages of 18 years will, while visiting the University Hospital of the West Indies, not be charged a fee or required to pay for the services to this facility. In addition, the resources from the National Health Fund will expand the community strategies through the engagement of all stakeholders at the community level. The engagement will involve the provision of resources to undertake dengue mitigation strategies. These activities will include support for the removal of bulky waste and drain cleaning exercises across the country. Our National Health Emergency Operations Center, as well as emergency operating centers across the country in all parishes, has been activated and are having weekly meetings. The public is advised that the Aedes aegypti mosquito breeds in any containerized environment, that is, anything that contains water. Some of the common breeding sites for the Aedes aegypti mosquito are drums, tires, buckets, and animal feeding containers. Persons are encouraged to play their part in ensuring that the cases are minimized by monitoring water storage containers for mosquito breeding, keeping surroundings free of debris, destroying or treating potential mosquito breeding sites, wearing protective clothing, using DEET-containing mosquito repellents, and as much as possible, staying indoors at dusk with windows and doors closed. On a final note, we wish to remind the public that we are approaching the flu season. The flu season normally starts in October. It is important to be reminded that flu or influenza is an acute viral respiratory infection that spreads easily from person to person, mainly by coughing, sneezing, and through close contact. The virus circulates worldwide and can affect anybody, anywhere, anytime, any group of persons with varied symptoms, including fever and chills and sore throat, muscle aches, fatigue, headache, runny nose, or stuffy nose. The flu is to be taken seriously because at any time it can lead to pneumonia and blood infections and causes diarrhea and seizures, it may, in children. We are to be reminded that our elderly are also vulnerable. the flu can worsen chronic medical conditions such as heart or lung disease. We have in country 18,000 doses of the flu vaccine purchased by the Ministry of Health and Wellness through the Pan American Health Organization's revolving fund for vaccines. The vaccine is offered free of cost in the public health system to the following high priority groups: health workers, children and elderly with chronic illnesses, pregnant women, individuals who are institutionalized in state care, and our non-health frontline workers. Although we have prioritized these groups, it is important to note that no one will be refused the flu vaccine in our public facilities. The private healthcare providers, however, are encouraged to procure influenza vaccines through private distribution in an attempt to widen access for the general population. I thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. And so now, as we are complete with both Dr. Williams and Minister Williams, Minister Morgan, you may want to then have the media engage.
Thank you very much, Naomi. We can now open the floor for any questions that members of the media may have. Do we have any questions, Naomi?
I think we were crystal clear this morning.
I guess we have had a perfect post-cabinet press briefing.
We have.
Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this morning. I'd like to thank the representatives from the Ministry of Health and Wellness, also the representatives from the Ministry of Education and Youth, our viewers online, including our support staff from the Jamaica Information Service and the Public Broadcasting Corporation. Until next Wednesday at 8 a.m., thank you very much for joining us here at Post-Cabinet Press Briefing. Be safe and be well.
Traveling to Jamaica? Submit your customs and immigration declaration online for faster processing. Visit the enterjamaica.com portal, complete and submit your declaration prior to departure. Upon arrival, proceed to the immigration kiosk and swipe your passport to confirm your trip details and declaration.